Good morning. Today is February 8th. It is Thursday on Radio Row, where we're expecting the 49ers and the Chiefs to play their hearts out this coming Sunday. When it comes to playing our hearts out, we have our guest, Art Serna, who's doing that for Milwaukee. Art, welcome. Thank you for joining us. Tell us a little bit about the work that you're doing.
Kayla, thank you for having me. This is an incredible place, incredible moment. I'm glad to be here to talk about the work of City on a Hill, where we're focusing on raising 1,500 children out of poverty as a model to show to American cities that are struggling in raising a generation that thrives.
Awesome. So, Art, talk about raising children out of poverty. It's a big issue. It's complex. There's a lot of layers. I can think of mental health, health disparity, socioeconomic status, racial barriers. The list goes on and on and on. I'm just hitting the tip of the iceberg. Talk about the problem.
Yeah, well, I think similar to football, we're standing in this place, right? Of the prime of the Super Bowl event. Football teams use data, right, to inform their perspective and their strategy, and you don't get to this level unless you can pull good data. Similarly, for us at City on a Hill, we know that the issue of childhood poverty is complex. So we look to people that do well with data, economists like Ross Shetty out of Harvard, that are pulling data at a community level, not just large data citywide county, but down at the neighborhood level to see what are the conditions for child development. So we talk about the American dream. I mean, this is part of the American dream, right? But the American dream for a child, for a family to be better by the time they're adults, by the time they're 35, that they can be better off compared to their parents. And what is sad to see in America, at least right now in the 50s, that happened. The majority of kids were doing better off than their parents, but now we're seeing that number decrease. And that's for us. We talk about all those indicators, the social determinants of health. So we're looking at neighborhood level statistics of what are the moves that are going to be important so that we attack childhood poverty with precision. And that's what we can look from football, right? Like you don't win unless you have precision and plays at the right time by the right players. We're building a coalition for change to do that through City on a Hill.
So let's talk about what City on a Hill is doing to be part of the solution. What are some of the programs and what's working? And also, Art, what doesn't work? What have you found?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. So first of all, we're child first. That's a view into the future. So we start with the child, and we use a framework of human-centered design. So we put the child in the seat, right, and then design what is needed for that child to develop into a thriving human being for the future of cities. And what we see is that what works is you have to have proximity to the problem. You can't solve a problem you don't understand. So you can't do it from a boardroom. You can't do it from some distant city. You've got to be present. So for City on a Hill, we've been established in the community neighborhood for over 20 years. We built relationships over a long period of time, over generations. And so that builds trust in a community. When you have trust, you can move mountains. So like a coach instills hope in a team or trust, that's what makes you championship level. And so for us, what works, we do it a couple of ways, Kayla. So first of all, we have a family mobility program that looks at a child's circle of influence, the family structure. So the family mobility assesses through data and through conversation, through storytelling, what is going on around that child in the head of the household, its peer, the child's peer network. And so we use that to inform a family mobility plan. What does that family uniquely need to get through and out of poverty within a decade, right? So that's what we do. But also what we find out is that if you want somebody to get a job, right, if they have mental health barriers, if they're sick all the time, they can't keep a job, right? They can't focus on education because of the pyramid of needs. So we also focus on health and wellness. We've got a variety of initiatives through a medical clinic, dental clinic, vision clinic, behavioral health clinic. And so we put that present, we build a trust for individuals, and we use those health initiatives to help them thrive as they work on their plan whatever that means, whether it's more education or more income, a better job, whatever it is, or moving to a different neighborhood within the city.
So it's Art. It sounds like you're giving them a huge plan, right? Putting together really their personal business plan for their life to be able to be successful. That's a long process. Take us through sort of the mechanics of that process in terms of how that works, and how many people, how many different people they work with, because the areas you're talking about are all very different sets of expertise.
Yeah, so I can say thank you, Roy. So we've our target right now is 1,500 children. Why that's important is when we look at the three target zip codes. I don't know if people have read the book about the tipping point, but it talks about 11% of a population.
Seems to be our
You have
favorite book
saturation,
on
you
Radio
can
Row
move the
this
needle.
week.
Everybody's talking Malcolm Gladwell on Radio
There
Row.
you
This is great.
The Malcolm Gladwell, exactly. So when we looked at the data, well, what is the tipping point for this? The geography we're working on, and 11% within 10 years got us to in 5 years 1,500 children. So in terms of how we get them in, like the journey, many of them come through a couple of things. They're either coming in through the medical clinic first. They don't have insurance. They come in say for diabetes, and so they meet with our doctors to get their assessment. But that's just the first thing. That's what gets you in the door. But when you come in, you're meeting with a community health worker, and that community health worker
like, why are you here?
is doing
Right? Like, why are you struggling with diabetes? And
analysis,
it's typically
right? Like, why
a multiple set of things.
are
So we
you
assess for you
struggling
what is that journey.
to
So we
be?
begin to get a clearer picture of what's going on. And then oftentimes we say, well, what
And
else
it's
does your
typically
family need? And what we've heard from people is, well, we have children
set of
in the
things.
home. Oftentimes it's multiple children, 5, 10 that are in a household, and they say we need a safe place for them to develop, to learn, to
So we
get
assess
caught up in school.
what
So
else
then we have the youth center.
does your
They're dropping
family
youth center
need
after
or in a
school,
house to learn.
and that's where we begin to develop a
They're dropping youth
relationship
center after
with the
school,
children. And oftentimes, if we've got the heart of the
and that's where we
child
begin to
and their
develop the
trust,
relationship
we'll get the
with part of
buy-in
the
from the parent or the head of the household to go on
child
this
and their
journey with us.
trust.
So
We'll get on
one
this.
way that we
So
build momentum,
one way
we
that
had a
build
Festival
momentum,
of
but we
Lights
had
event.
a
It was great
Festival
to
of
see
Lights event.
Kayla
It was
there,
great to see
her
Kayla
family
there,
join
her
us in this
family join us in this
concrete 2-acre
concrete
parking lot.
2-acre
Right, but
parking
we said
lot.
we're going to bring
Right, but
social
we said we're going to
capital.
bring
We brought a
social
laser
capital.
show
We
that
brought a
was
laser show that
over an
was
hour long.
over an hour
In the
long.
community,
In the community, we received phone calls from the apartments in the neighborhood.
a grandma
A grandma that says my 3-year-old
was like
benefiting, was captivated by this laser show,
and that parent
and
took
that parent took the time the next day to call my office and say, I just want to thank you
that you brought this to my
community.
And that's how we begin to
And that's
build
how we
hope,
begin to build
because
hope,
we were told,
because we were
this is
told
happening in
this is
my
happening
neighborhood.
in my neighborhood.
And in our neighborhood,
53233, 82%
children
of children under the age of 18 are living in poverty.
They need hope to believe.
They need hope
that
to
the
believe
broader
that the community, broader community of Milwaukee sees them and cares
about.
about them, and that's
Yeah,
what we're
and
about.
Art, let's just talk a little bit about the zip codes that City on a Hill serves. I think sometimes people aren't really aware about their own communities, because if you don't have to drive into a neighborhood, you don't see it. So you said 86% of children live in poverty in 82.
82.
Let's talk about incarceration rates. Let's talk about some of these other factors, higher education, things like that. Can you share a little bit more information about those zip codes?
Yeah, those things are super interconnected, Kayla. And I was talking to someone in Milwaukee. We have the Black Holocaust Museum, right? And so
Those things are super interconnected, Kayla, and particularly about
the
imprisonment rate, specifically black men. And so we can't even hope to rebuild the family structure if we don't address that one, if we don't understand it, that has a disparate impact in those black. We work each and every day, because that means that a child doesn't have that model, that male model in their household. And many times a father figure can bring identity to a child. And so all these things are interconnected. So for us, being able to serve that individual, whether it's a parent or a mentor or an older brother who might be in prison, to give them hope that when they come out, if that's a possibility, that they've already started working on themselves, but also working on their relationship. When we talk about education, I used to work for Teach for America, so I was deep in the weeds of like, what does it mean to move a generation that was struggling? Like, America's changing, the demographics of this country are changing. So when you think about the future of America, your future CEOs, your future entertainment, your future athletes, we've got to grapple with the reality that a lot, at least just in Milwaukee, there are schools where less than 10% of children are reading at grade level. And that's like, well, you can't even begin to plan for your future if you can't adequately read, right? Because you can't work on your craft, you can't work on your business. So that's something we're going to have to really grapple with. So at City on a Hill, although we're not a school, we work directly with schools. We bring mentors so we focus on literacy, supplementing literacy to catch a child up so that they're reading at grade level within years of coming to join our youth center.
So it sounds, Art, like you're doing so much. We're talking about healthcare, we're talking about mentorship, we're talking about literacy, we're talking about all these things. You're the leader. What you said that you were the executive director for Teach for America. There's got to be more than that. There has to be personal experiences in your life, a lot of things that got you to this point. I know it's pretty vulnerable. Would you mind sharing sort of your story and how you got to this point?
Yeah, so I tell the story of my grandfather, my maternal grandfather, Francisco Bernal. He was a farm worker, never learned to read, was illiterate his entire life. But that man had a heart for community. He would show up in a neighborhood and see if there wasn't a place of like fellowship of people to build their faith in a community. He would gather the man in the community and say, I'm gonna buy you these beverages, right? Come and work and build this place for people to gather. And so he left an impression in my life that even though I went and I got an astronomy degree in science, I got a master's degree in business and technology startups, my heart was to be with the people and to rebuild communities. And I cannot, like, once you see it, you cannot see it, right? Like, and so when I look at communities, I have this burning dream. When you see it in your mind that communities can be different, it just changes you. And so that and that's why I love people like you and Roy, because you all get it, you believe it, and you're building belief in people in this network. And I'm glad to be part of this Sports Philanthropy Network Leadership Council in Milwaukee, because I was a student athlete in high school. And so that taught me the discipline of building a team, working with a team. We went undefeated one year when I was in varsity in basketball. So I know what it means to win. And in this thing, I like winning. And so I want to win with community, right? We're not in it just to like feel good about the work we do. And I'm telling my team, if we can't pull the right data and show that we're making an impact, moving the needle at a neighborhood level, eventually a citywide level, then like, let's pack up and go home. But I believe it's doable. We're seeing it. There's examples around the world where this is happening at a neighborhood level. And I want Milwaukee to be the next story. And one thing I will say here, Kayla, when I came in as CEO, we took a year to really do a deep dive post-COVID on the future of City on a Hill. And it was important for us to pivot our strategy and our mission statement to that we're about the transformation of cities and families by restoring hope, advancing justice, and enhancing quality of life. But cities as the unit of change was important because all of the structures and systems at a city level are impacting how a child grows. And in a city like Milwaukee, where the majority of African American children are really locked in to a small geography near downtown, that has vast implications for the future of the city. And so we care about things like that.
I love it. And you talk about tipping the needle and moving things forward and scaling across cities. Art, you really have become a thought leader in the space. You have spent a lot of time not only researching these things, but as you said, being in the weeds, solving the problems at a very real level. I think that there's a lot of people who are going to see this or listen to it, and they're going to want to know how to connect with you, whether it's a speaking engagement, training session, opportunities to brainstorm together. How can people reach you?
Yeah, so our website, cityonahillmke.org. It's the perfect way to start. They'll get to see what our work is about, the various ways we do it. If they want to volunteer, again, I say we got to be proximate to the problem. If you have an interest in anything what we said, come and join us. Come do a poverty simulation. Come bring a group to do a service project over a week or a weekend, so you can volunteer, get proximate. You can also donate to our mission. I'm on a mission to raise $3 million over the next 3 years from private investors, because I care about the future of cities. And so this is incredible to see the amount of social capital that has come to this event. And I know more worthy causes are going to be elevated during this time. So I appreciate the opportunity. But again, the website, cityonahillmke.org, is a way for people to plug in. And then they can find me on LinkedIn and just reach out. I will follow them on X, on LinkedIn. So just reach out.
Perfect. Thank you, Roy.
Art, thank you so much for being here. We love the work that you're doing in Milwaukee. We know that that's a truly great diagram and role model for other communities to follow. And we look forward to continuing to partner with City on a Hill in Milwaukee and creating larger partnerships and collaborations that can start impacting other cities as well. So I know you came out here for a whirlwind trip. Hopefully, you're going to have a great day here on Radio Row with all of the other outlets and opportunities to speak and spread the word about the incredible things that you're doing in Milwaukee. So, on behalf of Kayla Bradham, I'm Roy Kessel for Sports Philanthropy Network. I want to thank Art Serna for joining us today. Thank our viewers and listeners for being part of this broadcast and reminding everybody to live generously. Thank you.
Thank you.